Understanding this concept will change how you approach your projects and your career. My name is Guilherme and I'm a project manager expert. I help professionals to become successful project managers. How I do that in practice can change a lot, from providing training to help people to develop their skills, to help them to apply their skills, like in practice, with mentoring and with consulting. So, if your goal is to develop your project management skills, my goal is to support you in this journey. And of course, before I forget, make sure you like and share this video here because that helps the social media to distribute that for more people and more people can learn project management. But also that helps me here in my channels to grow there. So I would appreciate a lot if you can do that. The concept that I'm going to talk about here today, it's a very well-known concept in marketing. But I'm going to tell, of course, I'm going to explain the concept, then I'm going to tell you how this is important and relevant for your project, for your career, and I'm going to give you some practical examples from my own experience here. So the first one, what is the concept that I'm talking about? Is what you can see, in the screen here. Do you know the difference between value and price? Well, if you look for a very basic definition, price is the amount of money you pay for something. Value is the perceived value. The value is the perceived benefit that you get. How useful that can be for you. How this product or service can help you. So price is basically what you pay and value what you get. How this is important for your project. If you are working in a project and you have, for example, a procurement in your, you have suppliers into your project, you need to understand this definition to select your supplier. Why? Because a lot of organizations that you're going to see there, they are going to select suppliers only based in their pricing. What's the problem with that? And that's of course why the image here. If you select supplier based only in the price, vary what you're going to do. You're going to look for the lowest price. But a lot of times, the lowest price that you see in the right side here will provide you much more problems, risks, challenges than select a supplier with a higher price. I know that might be someone wondering there. Yeah, but I have a budget to follow. Of course, I'm not. I understand that if you're executing a project, you have a budget on that one, and the company wants to save as much money as possible. But it's very important when you're selecting, when we are dealing with suppliers, you don't see only why the price they provide. For example, I'm going to give you an example from a project of mine. That's I think I don't know how long that was already, but in the beginning of my career, I started working with engineering, procurement, and construction projects. Then, of course, I got promoted for a project manager position, and I was dealing with this kind of projects there. And for one of the projects that I had there, it was a big one. The We had to select a contractor for the civil works. For the it was a substation, meaning energy infrastructure there that we were building. And then there was a kind of heavy work to be done there, like excavation, preparing foundations for equipment, creating a building to put the command and control part of the substation there, and so on. And of course, as happens quite often, this project here we had a short, very short, not short margin, but we had a margin that was not that big. And of course, there was pressure to keep the margin and of course of to improve it. And the company I was working on, a lot of times how we select suppliers for the project, only thinking on price. So the procurement team, they would look for suppliers, they would look for the cheapest price, they would try to negotiate it to push the price lower because then you say, I'm saving money, I'm gaining some money there, and you're going to do that. So, long story short, we end up selecting a contractor to execute the project there. The cheapest one that we did not have any experience, it was a small company, so the discussion negotiation was done directly with the owner of the company. And then we put him to execute a very big project. And I think his contract, the company contract there, was I don't know, money at the time, if you look for the full scope that he got there, likely around $2 or $3 million there. Probably the biggest contract this company ever had there. What was the challenge with that? First, this company did not have the infrastructure to execute a contract like that. They did not have any experience we work with this type of construction, so this was more a heavy construction for building infrastructure. He was more used to build houses there, and of course, this guy here, that the owner of the company, he was looking for the money that he would make also there, looking for margin profits and so on, and he tried to execute the project. And then he did not even want to put a site manager there because also that was discussed. Let's make this as cheap as possible. And then there was the idea of the site manager of my project, and he's in this discussion with him that they would not put a site manager there because then you don't need to pay a site manager, so you save a lot of money. Think about here 1 year of salary of someone. Let's put just random numbers here. If you have someone making 10,000, whatever currency that you're talking about, $10,000 that you pay $10,000 a month, 1 year you're talking about already 100K of savings there. If you think about a contract of 2 or 3 million there, that starts to be more significant there. And they decide to do that. What was the problem with this approach? Well, without the site manager there, of course, there was just the head or the supervisor of the activities there, but he was trying to supervise the service that to be done on field there, but there was no planning, no material, uh, no one with an overseeing the plan, and all this type of problem. In the end, that led for several other projects problems. We had to find another another company to start another contractor to start to execute it there because this company was so behind there that at some point we put two contractors and we told them, well, whoever is performing better will start to gain more scope of the work. And of course, the new contractor was more expensive and everything else, but was performing better. And then we end up phasing out the initial contractor there. But that created a lot of problems, a lot of extra work, a lot of complaints from the customer. And in the end, the other contractor there, because we kind of negotiating stuff within an emergency, so we pay an extra fee for the emergency execution of service. So it was even more expensive than it could have been if we have done it the right way in the beginning. So here is a very important application when you talk about the difference between the price and value that you get. The contractor number one that we put there, lowest price. Also, the kind of value that we got was very low there. So when you get and thinking about making an analogy here, if you are buying something, if I'm telling you that you are going to buy a car, and whatever car that you let me put an example, let's say a Porsche, a brand new Porsche. If I tell you that you can pay $5,000 in a brand new Porsche, the price is very low and the value that you get it's very high because you know that a Porsche worth much more than that. Even if you want to resell it, then you can make a lot of money in a scenario like that. But what if I tell you that you are going to pay $300,000 in a Fiat 500 there, for example? Well, the value that you get it's much lower than the price that you get, so does not worth the deal. And that's when you think about suppliers, that's the way that you need to think. For example, the contractor number one that I had there, lowest price, but the value was also low. Why the value was low? Delays, quality issues in the construction, a lot of complaints from the customer there. And in the end, we had to find another contractor, so there was real work, our administrative work, procurement, looking again for companies, creating a new contract, and so on. But also because the first contractor was so late that we had to pay kind of an emergency fee for the second contractor to work extra hours to work on Saturdays to recover the work that we were doing there. So in the end, if you work for the entire chain, this contractor here that was the cheapest price, it costed much more for my project, and not only money but also stress for everybody, complaints from the customer and so on. So it costed the cost was much higher because of that. And that's why when you're working with procurement in your project, and if you have an organization that's more mature, they might have a strategic sourcing organization there that will understand that only price focused procurement does not provide you the best value that you have there. What's price focused procurement that they are going to just to look for the lowest price. But in the end, as I just give you this example, you are going to have problems with guaranteed quality, reliability, long-term performance, and whatever that you are doing there. And this is one example on the construction industry. But I've seen, for example, in other projects that I was working on, and then already a different company, a different industry, we were about to select a supplier for the automotive business for one of the projects that I was dealing with. And this was a supplier that in this case was already working with the company, and but they were the cheapest price. And again, then this company has had a more mature organization, so there was not only price focused organization. So we'd say, okay, they're already a supplier. Let's take a look on the quality reports that we have, because if they were already supplying components for mass production, and we could have an idea of what kind of quality that we were getting there. Then when I went to the system and I downloaded the number of components that they delivered and the number of quality rejects that the company had in the incoming inspection. If you do not know it, what is an income inspection for manufacturing sites? What they do, basically, buy something from a supplier. Usually, they expect the supplier to do some type of inspection and have some level. But if you are dealing with mass production, you also want to have an income inspection there to make sure you don't put defective items into your production line, because rejecting something in the end of the line after you assemble something, after you produce something, it's more expensive than rejecting the material in the beginning, or the raw material or component that you have before doing any type of work. So that's what's income inspection. So when I look for the income inspection from this supplier there, they had a lot of quality rejects. And they have a lot of quality issues there. So in this case, what we did, we are not going to select a supplier that we already have quality problems there. For this project, we were looking for to sell 2 or 3 million. In this case, was sensors per year. This supplier was providing a connector there, and you can imagine that would get very expensive. Why? Because if something goes wrong with your income inspection and you put a defective product there and you end up shipping to the customer, you also get customer returns. So the customer return will be quite expensive, because then you need to run investigations to understand what was the problem. You need to provide, depending on the impact of the customer, you need to pay for that. So that's the understanding, depending on the type of the industry that you are working on. This idea that the only price focus procurement does not work. So that's why you need to look for the value focus procurement there, where you're going to look for all the work around it. You're going to look for the life cycle of your product, of your project. And based on that, you're going to look for other dimensions into your supplier: price, technical capabilities, quality, understanding what kind of relationship you can have with the supplier. Because if you have a long-term relationship with the supplier, that's also a way to get long-term value. Because a good supplier can help you to provide technical solutions, can help you to reduce cost, and so on. So you are going to look for the value focused procurement, and you are going to start to negotiate for optimal value, not optimal price. So if you do that in the project, you avoid that you end up in situations from the first example that I mentioned. And here I like this picture because you can see one beautiful house, everything organized. In the other one, everything looks like crap. And that's basically the difference on only looking for price and not only looking for value of stuff. So that's how this concept can really, if you implement this, that's how you can start to get more value for your organization. Remember, very important to remember it again, the ultimate goal of any project is to deliver value. So your job as a project manager is to deliver and manage value. And by understanding, so that's why it's so crucial that you understand between the difference between price and value. But how you can implement that also in your personal life, in your career, and so on. Let me give you a different type of example. Here you have an image. Think about you have two people that they subscribe for a gym. One is the person in the one is the lady here that she is working out, and the other one is the guy watching TV eating some donuts. If both of them they subscribe for the same gym, which who do you think gets value from the for the same gym subscription they paid? I don't know how what's where you live or how much the gym subscription. In the Netherlands, depending on the gym that you're going, it's going to be about 50 euros. Well, if it's a person that goes regularly with constance in the gym, that she or he is working to get healthier, keep their own shape, and I'm not talking about physical shape, but the healthy part that's quite important, developing good habits and so on. But what about the person that goes, that pays also the gym but never goes? This person gets zero value for that. And why I'm saying that? Because with this very basic example, you can have the same type of understanding for almost everything that you do. If you buy a book and you don't read it, what kind of value? This book is expensive or cheap? Well, if you don't read it, it's expensive because you just wasted. So if you buy a book and you don't read it, you pay a price and you get zero value. If you buy a book and you read it, you acquire knowledge and implement it, you can get several times the price of book in value there. So that's a very important thing. And why I'm mentioning there? For example, I have a development program for project managers where I created my own framework, content, and everything else with support and so on. There's people that buy my program, which is online, and they never open that. I know that because in the platform that I create the content and I share with them the content tools and everything else there, I can see who is following the training. I can see where they are spending their time. I can see what they're reviewing, how often they enter, and everything else. And there's people that they bought the program and they never ever even open it. They never did a login in the platform. So what kind of value that you think this person has? Zero. Of course, if you don't do anything with that, if you're not even trying, you get zero value with that. And then, is it, in this case, is it expensive? Yes, they just will waste their money because they don't get anything. But what about the person that goes for the full training, asks questions, engage with me, and I help with them how to apply it, answer questions, so on. The value that this person can get is several times what they paid in the training. So this is quite important here. And how does it also help into your career? Well, if you want to grow in your career, if you want to develop your career, you need to have this same idea. The value that you deliver versus the price. What's the price in this case? It's how much you cost for the company or how much the company pays for you. Let me give you one example that I've seen in real life. I think last year. The company I was working on had a junior project manager there. And this junior project manager, I think he was about 25 or 26 years, and he was very ambitious. He wanted to grow to be a CEO and everything else. And again, nothing against his goals. I think he's right. You need to have goals. You need to have a clear goals, and you need to work to achieve it. What was the problem in the situation like that? So he was getting paid, of course, a junior and project manager salary there. He was handling several projects. But he was pushing that he wants to be promoted, he wants to be a manager and everything else. And again, nothing wrong with that. At some point, I had similar goals when I was about his age, so I do understand what he was trying do that. But what was the challenge in this situation? That he was getting bad performance. Like in the reviews that the company do about performance, the feedback that he was getting is that you need to improve it. A lot of important stakeholders were complaining about his performance, about the lack of responsiveness, the lack of planning, how he engaged with the team members, how the kind of results that he was getting to the project there. There was a lot of complaints about that. So he was pushing for a promotion because so a promotion you see that's something that he wanted that will give you a higher salary and everything else, the opportunity that he wanted, but the value delivery that he had was not even uh, at par, or it was not at this, even at the same level of the cost of the organization, of the current role that he already had. So you can think about how organization is going to promote someone. If you say, I want to have a salary increase, you need to find ways how you can add more value for the organization. Very simple. If you add 200,000 of value, very easy that you can go and you can try to negotiate a salary increase for you. For example, let me talk about one of the projects also that I handled in the past. Again, I'm going to start with an engineering, procurement, and construction project. In this project, of course, we have to design, we have to buy all the equipment, all the material, do the civil works, assembly, commission, and startup of the plant. And so whatever we had to buy as a material was creating the design. So the design, they create the specification of the material and they provide the quantities there. And I was the project manager. In this case, we were talking about the high voltage bar in the substation there. In this case, because of the type of product and the customer requirements there, instead of using a cable there, it was being used a bar. And those bars, they come like in standard lengths of 3 meters or 5 meters or whatever. And then I got the list of material of my design team and say that's what you need to buy. This is the quantities of bar that you need to buy. And I do not remember exact quantities at the time already. But I say, okay, if you're saying that I need to buy 100 bars, and then you got the specification 5 meters bar, then you say, okay, I'm going to buy 500 meters of bar there. And again, I do not remember if this is the right number. Then I just remember saying, oh, that sounds a lot. Then I took the drawing and I just measured, okay, here, from here, from here, from here, from here. And I end up doing the measurement there and say, but yeah, I measure like 300 meters of bar. And of course, if you add some waste, something that you're going to have, blah, 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 sometimes you this full size. And then I go back and say, there's something wrong here. From 300 to 500, that's quite a lot of difference on the number of bars there. So you're talking about 100 bars versus 60 bars there. So if you think about it, that this difference, well, what would be the cost for that? I do not remember the cost at the time, but let's make my life easier. Let me put 10. So if it's 10 for you, I'm talking 40 extra bars as a difference there, multiply by 10, then you end up in 4,000 there. Those numbers are not the precise one because I remember that the cost was much higher. But let's make the simple calculation at 4,000 here. Then I go and talk with the design, my lead engineer say something is wrong in this calculation. Then he shows me say, okay, this is the bar, this is why you need to check it. And then he goes and he talks with the person working the drawing. And then the person working the drawing say, Yes, this dimension is kind of more or less right, but we decide to add some safety there, so we added much more material that we need. And then, of course, when I figure this out, I say, okay, I'm not going to waste a lot of money for that. So instead of putting, in this case, 50, 60%, or the real numbers was around 30 or 40% of safety of material, because that's money that we are throwing away, because we are going to have a lot of material in the end that we are not going to use, and then we don't even know if we can use for the next project. And then we say, okay, forget about the 40% of material. I can accept 10% of variance there. 10% of safety sounds reasonable in what we are doing there. And then in the end, we reduce a lot. So if we talk about 60, we bought 66 instead of buying 100, and we end up saving money for the organization. And why I'm telling you all this story? Well, because at the time I remember I consider, okay, if I consider just this saving here, that because of that I created for the company, that can pay me, can just this saving here can pay 6 months of my salary, 6 months of my cost for the company. And why I'm doing that? Well, I understand what kind of value that I provide. If I can pay with one action, I pay 6 months salary. Okay, that's not the kind of stuff that you are going to be able to do every day. But consistently during project execution, if you are able to find maybe five, six, sometimes 10, depending on the project, during a project, you pay your salary for already years there. So think about a project. In this case, those projects would take between 1 and 2 years. Very standard timeline for all those projects. Well, if I can find five in one project, that would pay my salary for 6 months. I'm talking about I paid my salary for 30 months. So I paid my just for those actions. This is the extra value that I added. Plus the other stuff that I'm doing. I'm talking with customers. I'm blah blah blah, blah reporting, managing the team. So just for those actions, this is the type of extra value that happens. Well, in a situation like that, then you have an annual review. It makes easier for you and very concrete for you to say to negotiate a better salary, to look for say I would like to have a promotion. And when you start to make those things very concrete, it makes your life easier. It makes your career. I'm saying that okay, if you say that you added three times your salary, you're going to get this money from the organization. No, the world does not work like that. But I bet that makes easier for you to negotiate a salary increase. It makes easier for you to request for a promotion. It makes easier for you to look for more opportunities there. What happened in the situation that I just mentioned for the junior guy? So he was managing some projects, and those projects they were having problem, they were delayed, there were complaints about the team. So the company was paying this, right? And then just random numbers. I do not know. I don't have. I don't care about his salary. Let's say the company was paying 100 for him, and the value that the company was getting back. I don't know. Is 95. It's a bit below what they are paying here. Then depending how project goes, it can be even lower. But let's say it's the same 100, and they say, I want more money from the organization. The company gets 100 and pay 100 for him. There's no profit for the organization. If the organization starts to pay him more, the organization starts to lose money on him. So what makes sense if if you have an investment that you're losing money? Stop it. That's how the world works. So if you understand this concept and you start to apply in the right way, you can get value. I remember, for example, in other project here already in the automotive industry, that we will negotiate, me and my team will negotiate several items that we help to get for the money there extra, I don't know, around $2 million with a very good margin there. So this $2 million more they had, I don't know, 50% margin. What does it mean? It means that one, if you are only looking about the 1 million extra profit there, you say with the team that we worked to get this there, it was me and probably another 4 team members that were working: the account manager, lead engineer, process engineer, I don't know, quality, procurement, and so on. And then you end up with 5, 6 people. Well, what does it mean in practice? Just for these action that we took would pay my salary and for the entire team for the next full year. What happened? Of course, then you can get a bonus. You can request for a training for the company to pay you for a training. That's how the business world works. You're never going to get a company to say that, oh, I'm going to get you much more money if you cannot deliver more value. So think about and I'm talking about, I start talking about value and price concept there. Think about price or cost. If you think about for this concept for everything that you do, things will start to change it. I just explained to you how you can implement stuff that in your project, and I'm give you an examples how you can do that to your organization. So track some initiatives that you did in your organization. How you make sure that the project was delivered on time. If you're buying a lot of stuff, how you make sure that the company had the value optimized when you look for the supply chain. And again, very important when I'm talking about if you think about cost reduction or saving money or anything like that, look for the value. I already explained that. Not only for the pricing, because if you are just focusing on the pricing, you are going to select the cheapest supplier, which will lead you to several problems. But if you are looking for the value there, and you can optimize the value, that's how you can produce more. How you can optimize the value? You can be more effective with your team. You can be effective with your team. For example, in one of our organization, one of the way they track it was they want to have a specific cost per month per project manager per number of projects. So I knew, well, okay, I know that's my cost. Basically, to be able to get to this target, I would have to handle 10 projects in average. What happened in this organization? Well, because I learned to be more efficient, and of course, depending on the type of project, different phase, and so on. At some point, I was dealing with 18 projects at the time. So that means, and if I would look for up here, there was some people handling, I don't know, 8 or 9 projects there. That means that for this person, handling 8 or 9 projects, the company was not meeting their target, and for them to ask for more money was much more difficult. Well, my salary, if I would have an increase to be divided, instead of dividing per 10, dividing per 17, I would still be very well in the range that they want. Think about that, understand that. And why I'm telling you that? Because this is very important for you and for your career. Nobody's going to tell you that. The companies, they're not going to tell. And of course, sometimes if you are working into a good company, they have reviews and you're going to get corrections, you get raises and so on, without having to push everything for every time. But more you understand those things, more leverage that you have. Also, because if the company also does not understand the value that you're providing, there you can find another company that can provide, that understand your value and can give you and can pay you more. Understanding the concept of value, price. More you understand that, more you're going to look for ways that you applied. Can when you think about this, the book that you're going to read, trainings that you are going to roll, how you're going to handle your project, how you can handle your career. Always look for value delivery, and more value you can deliver, more more things that will happen for you, meaning that you get better opportunities. And when I talk about opportunities, I'm not only talking about salary. Sometimes company they give as recognition training. They say, oh, there's a very nice opportunity for training. Can only be one person in the department? Okay, this person is deserve it, this recognition there. Understand that and use that, implement that into your career. And very important, I'm talking about implement, understanding and also implement it. What kind of value that you get if you understand it? Well, if you understand it, of course, you're going to get a value here because then you broaden your view. You're going to understand more concept there. But what if you start to implement this in your career, in your life, in your projects? So the value that you're going to get here is multiplied several times there. So keep that in mind and make sure that you understand and you apply the concept of price and value there. Again, don't forget to like and share this video here so we can reach more people and more people can learn project management. By doing that, also you help my channel to grow, and I'm going to appreciate a lot if you can do that with me. If this makes sense, share with a friend there. And also, if you have questions, feel free to ask in the comments or go into my Instagram. You can put questions in the Q&A box or you can send me a direct message there. Thank you and see you soon. Bye.